Hey there guys, it's me, Levi from Masculine Intuition Readings, and today I'm going to talk about a couple of decks that I hate / regret. And I know that hate is a strong word, but within the tarot community, there's not a lot of strong opinions. So let's dive right into them. So the first deck that I dislike is actually a deck that is kind of pretty. It is pretty to look at. Something about this deck doesn't work for me. These are cards by Evoy and they're called the Grand Energy card. And the reason why I bought it is because I actually love fractal art, and this deck is all fractal art. Now what I dislike about it is that this fractal art in particular doesn't have any keywords, and I'm very much about keywords. So I bought this deck on a whim and I was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna learn how to work with it. So then there's no keywords, but then also there's these weird borders around the card. For example, this card, there's more border than actual art and they don't match up. So for that card, the border was very big, very thick. And then for this card, once again, border very big, very thick. And here we have a slightly smaller border, and all of the cards are like different. Some of them even are like in landscape. And I actually don't mind landscape cards. I know that some people love them. And there is some really pretty art in here. But I actually have another fractal deck that I like a lot better and that does have keywords. So while these are pretty to look at, as for working with them, no. And then there's also some downright like ugly cards that don't make any sense at all. There must be people out there that really like this guy and his artwork and that are living for it, and I say more power to you. But I want to be honest on here and say what I think, and I don't like artwork like this. This is an Insta-size artwork on a full-size Oracle card, and I don't get that. It's almost like these artworks already existed and they decided to turn it into a deck. And you can kind of like, I think that's what happened. And you can kind of like notice when you look at the guidebook too. The guidebook is so small. It's a fold-out guidebook. And the card explanations are like an afterthought. That, or at least that's what it seems like to me. Maybe one day I'll find use for this deck. I don't know what it is, but I think it is like the OCD inside of me that can't handle all these different sized borders around the cards, and the fact that there are landscape cards in the deck too. Like, I think there's only one. Like, if there would have been 10 or a consistent number, it would have made sense, but the whole deck basically feels like an afterthought. So another deck, and this is actually kind of a group of decks, and I know a lot of people are, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I have all three of these decks, and for some reason, I don't like them that much, and I'm like, why did I get them? And that's all decks by Kranz. And I don't like them. And I kind of felt like I had to have them because everybody was so like enamored with them and was in love with them. They're not doing it for me, like, at all. I have to tell you though, with these two, I do really like the guidebook. The guidebooks are great. But of course the packaging is top-notch. The production value is really good. But I don't really like this deck because, you know, like, I get the fact that you have an animal deck. I love that. I'm not the biggest animal deck fan per se, but I think some of the illustrations on here, and we immediately have one that I hate, are really subpar. Like, this is the best Phoenix you could come up with. Like, I think it's getting a little bit lazy already. And then we have 20 versions of a black egg, a cosmic egg, a rainbow egg, and whatnot. But there are some really pretty ones here too. For example, I love the bear card. I love the elemental associations that each card has, but I don't like that there aren't any keywords on there. I'm kind of like, this is one of those decks where you really have to know and study each and every freaking meaning of the card in the guidebook and to be able to do readings. And I like decks that I can have readings with out of the box. And I don't want to study a whole new Oracle deck system. I want the Oracle to speak for itself and channel, so I can channel my intuition. Let me explain this to you really quick. I like Oracle decks that I can use out of the box and that are very clear and that don't involve a lot of hard work and studying. Which is the opposite with tarot decks. Let me tell you why I like that for Oracle decks. I hate it when a creator puts themselves between you and the tool so that you need them in order to get your message. There are some other creators out there that do this, that have great decks out there, but those decks don't work for me. They're really pretty, but they don't work for me because of that fact. For example, Alana Fairchild's White Light Oracle. I love it. I love the art. I really want to get it. But the cards aren't giving me anything. Like, there's no information on there for me to use. I need like at least one keyword to get that stream of consciousness going, and this deck doesn't have that at all. It's just bear, and then there's a nice pretty picture of a bear. And if I wanted to get a picture of a bear, I could download that and print it out, and I wouldn't have had to buy this deck. But I bought that deck when I was still very much a beginner, and I didn't know what I liked yet and what I disliked yet, and the cool like silver foil on the box attracted me. The guidebook is really good though, and it's a really interesting read, so I'm definitely not getting rid of this because I also have a lot of friends that like this. This, however, is a completely different beast. There are some cards in here that are really, 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 really nice and that really make sense. There are some cards in here that, once again, involve a lot of studying in order to master it, and I don't want that. So there are some cards in here that make a lot of sense, like the Mentor. I can read with that. The Poet. I can read with that. And the illustrations are gorgeous. So this is really gorgeous to look at. But then, Anima Mundi. I should know what that means, but I don't. And that means I have to look it up per se in the book to figure out the meaning of it. The Castle. I have to look it up in the book because I don't know what that is. Now, there are quite a lot of cards in here that do make sense. So maybe I'm bitching a little bit too much. But there are some weird cards in here, like this one. Thanatos. I don't know what that is. I have to look it up. And then there's just really annoying extensive Roman numerals at the top that I don't really get either. Apocalypses. What is an apocalypsis? I have to look it up. And then some of the design is also lazy. Like the seed, it's just a black line. Like, come on, Kim, you've been making like top dollar off of your Wild Unknown Animal Spirit and Wild Unknown Tarot, and you can probably do better than that. And I expected more like archetypes that are recognizable, like the heart. I know what the heart is. I know what an offering is, right? I know what the unseen is, but I don't know what an agape is, or an agape. I think it's agape. It's a Greek word. I don't know what it's for. I don't know what Kairos is. And all that this deck does is make me feel really dumb. But right now, as I'm flicking through them, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm getting a lot of them, but there's also a lot that I don't get. And then there's one card in the deck that everybody hates, and I love it, and it's basically one of my favorites. And that's this card, the Comic. I really like that. A lot of people don't like that. But then we have a card like this, The Empty Room. What does that say? I don't want to be dependent on the artist that puts themselves between the oracle and the oracle that would be me, and the tool that would be this deck of cards, in order for me to understand this deck and how to work with it. I don't like that. The shapeshifter, there's like a sloppy collage that makes up a face, and I'm like, yeah. The bardo, call me ignorant, call me illiterate, but I don't know what a bardo is. So some extra keywords, like right around the corner, would have been nice. Regular numerals instead of Roman numerals for every card would have been nice. And it just seems like, how do I say this without offending 80% of the tarot community? A lot of cards feel like an afterthought. So this deck has 78 cards, and what I think happened is, I think Kim thought, I made a tarot deck, I made an animal spirit oracle deck that is not that good, but the guidebook is great, and now I want to make a 78 card oracle deck that has its completely own system that is really like intense and people really have to work hard with and spend a lot of time with. And I'm gonna do 78 cards, and there's gonna be a shit ton of cards in there that are really like interesting and that people like, you know, really have to study on and meditate on. And if that's your jam, this is great for you. I like my decks simple with depth to it, the kind of depth that will show itself to me over time and that I don't have to study that hard for. This is just, I don't know, I'm kind of overseeing this, and there are some cards in there that are really hard to read because sometimes you can't tell if it's swords or wands, and I mean, people love this. I'm gonna hurt a lot of people's feelings. People have tattoos of this. It's not for me. Well, I'm probably gonna keep all of them for reference sake, but I'm not a big fan. Okay, anyways, now that I've stomped on everybody's feelings, let's move on to the deck that I hate the most out of all the decks that I have. It's called the In-Between Tarot, and I bought this because the idea was really interesting to me. I like kooky weird stuff. The In-Between Tarot has cards that are literally the in-between stage between one card and the card after it. The Strength card has a little bit of the Strength and a little bit of the Hermit in it. So there's this whole system that you have to learn, and I was really into it for a while, and then I was like, do I really want to like delve deep into this? This was a blind buy to me. The box looked pretty. The artwork that is on the back looked really good, and that is also the artwork that I like the most out of the deck. So, and I hate all the other artwork in here. And by hate, I don't mean that it's bad. It just means that I don't like it, and people should respect that opinion as much as we respect the opinions of people that always love everything and like everything. That was that. So in third place, the energy fractal art cards that are like, in shared second place, everything that Kim Kranz has ever produced in her life. And in first place, the In-Between Tarot. I will always respect anyone that makes a deck, so you always get my respect if you've made a deck. But this, for me, doesn't do it at all. I don't like it. I don't think the artwork is that... The artwork is amazing, made with skill and craft that I don't have and will never have, but it doesn't work for me. Thank you very much for watching. And let me know down in the comments what other video content you would like to see from me. I'd be very curious to hear. Thank you very much for watching, and peace out.